Grab your popcorn, folks, because the left has outdone itself again, proving that self-awareness is the one luxury California can't afford. In today's episode of Where Did the Money Go? Spoiler alert, not to solving homelessness. Nope. It's vanishing faster than Gavin Newsom at a recall election debate. We're living in a time where unprecedented investments seem to translate directly to unprecedented excuses, and California's playbook for fixing problems reads more like a script for a reality show that costs taxpayers billions of dollars. From San Diego's Todd Gloria allegedly turning housing deals into luxury condo fever dreams to Chelsea Investment Corporation allegedly redefining affordable housing as a Cayman Islands getaway, the contradictions here are thicker than the fog Newsom uses to dodge scrutiny. And let's not ignore Newsom's $9 million mansion, financed on a government salary nonetheless. Makes you wonder if California's true state bird is the kickback. Over the past few weeks, I've been highlighting California's glaring inefficiency in addressing the homelessness crisis. To recap, the state has spent nearly $25 billion over the last 5 years on this issue, according to the Legislative Analyst's Office. Despite this staggering investment, the results, or lack thereof, are shocking. As of January 2023, California had an estimated 181,399 people experiencing homelessness, according to Father Joe's Villages. That's almost 30% of the national homeless population, despite California making up just 12% of the U.S. population. California also experienced the second largest increase in homelessness nationwide between 2022 and 2023, with 9,973 more people falling into homelessness, according to Father Joe's Villages and HUD's 2023 Annual Homeless Assessment Report. While this growth rate is slightly lower than the alarming 13% increases seen every 2 years between 2015 and 2022, the trend is far from encouraging. To put it into perspective, 0.46% of California residents are estimated to be homeless, and more than 2/3 of those individuals are unsheltered, the highest percentage of any state in America. Shockingly, nearly half of all unsheltered homeless people in the U.S. reside in California. Now, what's even more alarming is that a significant portion of the nearly $25 billion allocated for homelessness remains unaccounted for, as reported by the California State Auditor in 2024. The audit revealed that the state lacks adequate systems to track how the money is spent or measure the effectiveness of its programs. Many Californians, myself included, have been demanding transparency from our state government about where this exorbitant amount of money went. Because, folks, we're not talking about a few thousand or even millions. We're talking about billions with a B. That's the kind of money that could fund the budget of a small country, and yet it has essentially vanished without the state providing a clear explanation. Well, it seems we might finally be getting some answers, and not thanks to our politicians. Instead, it's due to reporting by James Lee on X. His investigation offers crucial insights into where the money may have allegedly went and why the state's response has been so ineffective. Here's what he uncovered. He says in a thread on X, "I may have uncovered a massive scandal in California. Gavin Newsom claims $24 billion for homelessness went missing. Well, I found evidence of California officials possibly, allegedly, embezzling hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars through a sketchy Cayman Islands group." In response to an April 2024 audit, which exposed that California did not know how money going to solve homelessness was being spent, Governor Newsom responded by stating the results did not surprise him, but added that California has taken part in unprecedented investments. What kind of unprecedented investments, you might ask? Well, this is where things start to get sketchy. Enter Todd Gloria, the mayor of San Diego, who has been on a tear making housing deal after housing deal, which he claims will address homelessness. But when you look at the deals being done, the price tags are astronomical. A $145 million project with 407 units. A $150 million project with 270 units. I don't know about you, but these look more like luxury condo investments disguised as public housing projects. But here's where things get even sketchier. There is one investment group that pops up over and over again in all these city housing deals, the Chelsea Investment Corporation. Now, here's what we know about the Chelsea Investment Group. They're a developer that specializes in affordable housing. They were incorporated in the Cayman Islands, known for offshore banking, financial secrecy, and for being a tax haven. Their HQ is in Carlsbad, California. The founder is Jim Schmidt, and the CEO is Charles Schmidt. Are they related? James continues saying, "You ready for a real doozy?" Property records of Chelsea Investment Group's headquarters show that in 2016 it was sold for $3.5 million, $3.15 million of which was financed. And in 2023, another transaction for an undisclosed price, but $68 million was financed. And you want to know the kicker? The lender is the San Diego Housing Authority. Not suspicious at all. James continues, the building looks to now be owned by 13th and Broadway CIC LP, a shell company of Chelsea. But here is where there begin to be more questions than answers. How did the property jump 20x in value in 7 years? One thing we do know, when Todd Gloria was the chair of San Diego's Budget and Finance Committee, records show that the founder and then CEO of Chelsea Investment Corp was a major donor to Gloria's campaign. Quid pro quo? I don't know, you tell me. A dig into UCC filings and liens, Chelsea Investment Corp is leaving a nasty paper trail all over the country, so their entanglement with public housing is not limited to San Diego or California. He ends it by saying he advises everyone to start looking at their local area to see what turns up as far as the Chelsea group. This is what happens when Democrats get their blue lock grip on a state. California, once the crown jewel of the American dream, is now the glittery dumpster fire of the nation. Democrats have been running the show here for decades, and the results speak for themselves. Sky-high homelessness, billions of taxpayer dollars gone poof, and their idea of solutions looking more like insider trading than public service. Take Gavin Newsom, California's most photogenic excuse maker, for example. He casually admits that $24 billion meant for homelessness is missing. Not mismanaged, not redirected, just gone. Meanwhile, homelessness in California has surged by over 40% in the past decade, according to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. For every dollar spent, it seems the problem only grows larger. Newsom's reaction? Barely a shrug and some buzzwords about unprecedented investments. Translation, throw more money into the void and hope no one asks questions. Honestly, I'd say it's shocking, but this is Gavin we're talking about. The man's idea of leadership is glossy press releases and vague promises while the state falls apart behind him. And then there's Todd Gloria, San Diego's mayor, who seems to think slapping a fancy price tag on a housing project is the same as solving homelessness. According to a San Diego Union Tribune investigation, these multi-million-dollar deals aren't just outrageous, they're insulting. Gloria's housing solutions look more like a realtor's dream than a plan to help the unhoused. A $145 million project for 407 units, $150 million for 270, that's over $500,000 per unit. And just for comparison, HUD estimates the average cost of a low-income housing unit nationally is $160,000. Meaning for the cost of one low-income home in California, you could build 2.5 anywhere else in the country. Explain to me why that is. But here's the kicker. The company cashing in on all this, Chelsea Investment Corporation, the same Chelsea that's headquartered in California but banks in the Cayman Islands. Now, to recap some of the business dealings by Chelsea Investment Group that are in question, according to property records reviewed by the San Diego Housing Commission, Chelsea's HQ, bought for by $3.5 million in 2016, somehow ballooned to a $68 million valuation in 2023. Again, that's a 10x valuation in a 7-year period. And it should be noted that those $68 million were financed by the San Diego Housing Authority, a public agency. Affordable housing, my foot. This is financial gymnastics designed to dodge accountability and maximize profits. And let's not forget Gloria's connection to Chelsea's founder, Jim Schmidt, who was a major donor to Gloria's campaign while he chaired San Diego's Budget and Finance Committee. If this doesn't scream pay to play, I don't know what does. Public funds are being funneled somewhere, likely into overpriced, under-delivering projects, while the taxpayers are left scratching their heads. This isn't just incompetence. This screams of alleged cronyism on full display, the inevitable byproduct of one-party rule where everyone scratches each other's backs and no one faces consequences. Now, this apparently isn't limited to San Diego. Chelsea's shady financial trail stretches across the country, proving one thing. When Democrats run unchecked, they're not just incompetent, they're corrupt. According to federal UCC filings, Chelsea Investment Corporation has leveraged questionable financing schemes in multiple states, leaving behind a trail of bloated contracts and underwhelming results. California is the ultimate one-party state, and this is the result. They've turned governance into a money pit for their friends while the rest of us pay the price. But here's a part that should send shivers down your spine. This isn't just California's mess, it's their blueprint. According to the Pew Research Center, California leads the nation in illegal immigration and is actively pushing for amnesty programs that would provide voting rights to millions of undocumented immigrants. Why? To secure a permanent voter base. Import illegal immigrants, hand out state resources like candy, push for amnesty, and voila, a new loyal voting bloc. It's not about compassion, it's about rigging the game. California Democrats want to export this chaos nationwide, turning their corruption into a national franchise. So what do we call this? Progress? Compassion? Nope. In my opinion, this is legalized theft wrapped in virtue signaling. Gavin, Todd, and the rest of their crew have allegedly perfected the art of enriching themselves on the backs of taxpayers while pretending to solve problems they're too busy profiting from. California isn't a state anymore, it's a cautionary tale. And if the rest of the country doesn't wake up, this dystopian nightmare could be coming to a state near you. Now, to add to this story, I actually saw this a couple weeks back. James covered it as well yesterday, and I think it's worth mentioning. Gavin Newsom, our governor here in California, just bought a $9.1 million home in Marin, California. To comfortably buy and maintain a $9 million home, financial advisors suggest a net worth of at least $20 to $30 million, an annual income of $2 million or more, and hey, you know what the real kicker on this one is? Gavin's salary is $220,000 a year. How is he affording this? Now, what makes this mansion purchase appear even more shady on the surface, Newsom quietly purchased the luxury home through an LLC to keep the transaction off the radar, as reported by the Sacramento Bee. This isn't just a bad look, it's an outright attempt to dodge transparency and accountability. For a man who's made a career out of preaching equity and fairness, his actions scream of entitlement and elitism. And to make matters even worse, this isn't his only mansion. Newsom also owns a $3.7 million home in Fair Oaks, purchased in 2019, and another $3.7 million ranch in Napa Valley, according to public property records. Now let's recap. To comfortably afford a $9 million home, financial advisors recommend a net worth of $20 to $30 million and an annual income of $2 million or more. Newsom's government salary, around $220,000 a year. Using the same financial benchmarks, both of the $3.7 million properties would require an additional $8 to $10 million in net worth to maintain comfortably, along with hundreds of thousands of dollars annually in upkeep and taxes. When you add it all up, to afford these three properties, Newsom would need a net worth exceeding $40 million and an annual income of $4 million. Now, it should be noted that according to California's Fair Political Practices Commission disclosures, Gavin Newsom's wealth is rooted in a mix of trust funds and business ventures, including holdings in the Plumpjack Group, a hospitality company he co-founded before entering politics. While these assets may generate significant outcome, they still don't fully explain how he's able to afford three multi-million-dollar properties, including a $9.1 million mansion in Marin County. Real estate experts have pointed out that properties of this caliber not only require enormous upfront capital, but also ongoing costs in maintenance, property taxes, and insurance, expenses that far exceed what his reported income and holdings would seemingly allow. Now, all this raises serious questions. Are these purchases fully funded by personal wealth, or is there more to the story? The lack of transparency surrounding the Marin home, funneled through a private LLC, makes it difficult to follow the money trail. The LLC structure itself isn't inherently illegal, but is commonly used to obscure ownership and shield transactions from public view. For a governor who claims to champion transparency and fairness, the secrecy surrounding his finances is deeply ironic, if not outright suspicious. Californians deserve answers about how their governor is funding a lifestyle that looks more like a tech CEO's than a public servant's, especially when there's that little issue of the $25 million to solve the homeless crisis that magically disappeared and nobody can account for. At the end of the day, public service is supposed to be just that. Service for the people, not a shortcut to personal wealth. Yet from Congress to state governorships, we're seeing a troubling pattern. Our so-called public servants enriching themselves while taxpayers foot the bill. Now, this theme isn't unique to Newsom. It's rampant across all levels of government. A 2020 analysis by Open Secrets found that over half of the members of Congress are millionaires, with many significantly increasing their wealth during their time in office, often through investments, stock trades, and real estate deals made possible by their access to insider information and privileged networks. These are the same officials who pass laws and allocate budgets while profiting from the systems they're supposed to regulate. Californians and Americans as a whole deserve better than politicians who treat public office as a stepping stone to personal wealth. It's a broken system where public trust is eroded, and the people these officials are supposed to serve end up subsidizing their lifestyles. But wait, there's more. And if you're anything like me, this is going to piss you off.
I'm a public administrator.
How much do you make?
$242,000 a year.
Can you describe what you do in one sentence?
I oversee homeless program for a very large nonprofit in the city of Los Angeles.
That's a big role. And what's your biggest struggle in that job?
Not enough housing, not enough housing, not enough housing.
All right, today we're going to expose this entire grift. First, I dug around a little bit, and the nonprofit that she worked for is called LA Family Housing. And according to their IRS Form 990, they received $65 million in government grants last year. And you know how she talked about housing being so important? Well, this is what they're talking about. LA Family Housing is transforming a 1950s motel into apartments for supportive housing. But then you look at the price tag, $60 million for 41 apartments. $60 million. LA has a homeless population of over 75,000, and that's how they think $60 million of taxpayer money should be spent? That's either incompetence or gross negligence, and I'm thinking the latter. Because here's what I think the scheme is with all these affordable housing units that are popping up all over Los Angeles. It's a complete bait and switch scam. Because here's what's going on. The construction of affordable housing developments is subsidized by public funds. In exchange, rents are regulated by covenants, but these covenants carry an expiration date. And once a covenant expires, a building's owner is not required to pay back any public funds. Rather, he is freed from all regulations which kept rents down, able to extract and hoard all future profits. And in the city of Los Angeles alone, there is an estimated 11,000 affordable housing units, which will convert to market rate within the next 5 years. So these massive public housing projects are nothing but a huge money laundering scheme between these real estate developers and these nonprofit administrators who are making monster salaries, and also politicians who I assume are getting kickbacks, allegedly. I mean, how else would you explain this insane statistic that LA is spending $837,000 to house a single homeless person? So I give these people two options. Either A, actually end homelessness, or B, we should demand to defund this whole boondoggle.
Now let's unpack this dystopian disaster. Los Angeles is spending $837,000 per homeless person, according to James Lee. And what do taxpayers get in return? A 1950s motel turned apartment complex at $60 million for just 41 units. That's over $1.4 million per unit. For context, HUD estimates the national average cost of a low-income housing unit to be around $160,000. This isn't just a bad deal, it's a slap in the face to every Californian struggling to pay rent, let alone the homeless population it's supposed to help. And the people profiting off this sham, take the public administrator in the video who earns $242,000 annually to oversee these programs for LA Family Housing, a nonprofit that raked in $65 million in government grants last year, according to their IRS Form 990. This salary, while not illegal, is emblematic of the larger grift. Bureaucrats and nonprofit executives enriching themselves while homelessness surges. These are the same people claiming not enough housing while mismanaging obscene amounts of public money. But the scheme doesn't stop there. Real estate developers have turned affordable housing into a bait-and-switch racket, using public funds to subsidize projects with temporary rent covenants that expire after 5 years, allowing them to flip units to market rate, jack up prices, and pocket massive profits without ever repaying taxpayers. According to the Los Angeles Housing Department, 11,000 affordable units in the city are set to convert to market rate within the next 5 years. And here's the real kicker. 5 years isn't just a random timeline. It conveniently coincides with the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. What better way to clean up the city than to shuffle the homeless population into temporary housing, hide the crisis from the global spotlight, and then kick them out once the games are over? The developers get their subsidies now, their luxury pricing later, and the homeless get dumped back on the streets as soon as it's profitable. It's a scheme so brazen, you almost have to admire the audacity. If it weren't leaving Californians housed and unhoused alike holding the bill. And then there's the politicians. How else do you explain this revolving door of public funds enriching developers, nonprofits, and bureaucrats? Alleged kickbacks and campaign donations from developers aren't a conspiracy theory. They're a likely explanation for why these nonsensical overpriced projects keep getting greenlit. The entire system reeks of collusion between city officials, nonprofits, and private developers. So here's the reality. California's homelessness crisis isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's a perpetually lucrative industry for those in power. Nonprofits rake in millions, developers walk away with untold profits, and politicians enjoy campaign coffers brimming with donations. Meanwhile, the homeless population grows, taxpayers lose billions, and Californians are gaslit into believing this is the best we can do. But with all that being said, at some point point, we have to ask, is the goal to actually end homelessness or to perpetuate a system that enriches a select few? But with all that being said, at some point, we have to ask, is the goal to actually end homelessness or to perpetuate a system that enriches a select few? Because if it's the latter, and all evidence points to that, then Californians should demand this entire operation be defunded and rebuilt from the ground up. It's time to hold these so-called leaders accountable and stop treating homelessness as an industry instead of the crisis it is. So do me a favor, folks. Look around. Do you want your state to become the next California? Decades of leftist policies have turned the Golden State into a corruption factory where billions go missing, homelessness skyrockets, and the only people getting richer are the nonprofits, developers, and bureaucrats feeding off the crisis. How does $24 billion just vanish without a trace? How is LA spending $837,000 to house a single homeless person while the problem gets worse? And why are politicians like Gavin Newsom buying multi-million-dollar mansions through shady LLCs instead of solving the issues they've been elected to address? Does this sound like leadership or a recipe for disaster? Now ask yourself this. What's the real goal? Is it to fix the problems they created or to lock down power forever? Why are they importing waves of illegal immigrants, handing out resources, and pushing for amnesty? Could it be that they're trying to create a permanent voter base to keep themselves in control? Do you want the rest of the country to follow California's lead, where corruption is rampant, accountability is non-existent, and taxpayers are left holding the bag? Because that's exactly what they're trying to do. Blue lock states and roll out this failed experiment nationwide. So are you ready to fight back, or are you willing to let this dystopian model spread? You tell me in the comments down below. Have a terrific day. Peace.